It was just an old radio, something I picked up at a yard sale for a couple of bucks. It was a mess rusty, with broken knobs and a frayed cord. It couldn't even pick up a signal. But when I brought it home and plugged it in that night, it spoke. Not with words at first, just these faint whispers, buried deep inside the static. I leaned closer, trying to make them out. Then, a voice cut through the noisy woman's voice, soft and trembling. It said, "Can you hear me?" I froze. The radio wasn't connected to anything. No Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, not even an antenna. I must be imagining it. I reached out and turned a dial. Just a fraction of an inch. The static swelled, and the voice grew clearer. But now there was something else behind it. A faint crying sound. "I'm cold. Please, help me." My heart hammered against my ribs. My hand was shaking as I leaned toward the speaker. I whispered, "Who are you? Where are you?" The voice replied, and the words sent a chill down my spine. "You know me." And in that moment, I did. I recognized the slight lilt, the way the words caught in her throat. It was my sister's voice. My sister, who had died in a car accident 3 years ago. Suddenly, a loud burst of static erupted from the speaker, so sharp it made me jump back. Then, silence. The radio went dead. I scrambled to unplug it, my fingers fumbling with the cord, but it wouldn't come out. The plastic felt scorching hot, burning my hand. Then, just as suddenly, the static crackled back to life, but this time, it was a different voice. A voice I knew even better than my sister's. It was my own voice, cold and empty, coming through the speaker. "I found you," it said, and then the lights in the room went out, plunging me into total darkness, with only the faint glow of the radio dial. Every channel on that old, broken radio began whispering my name, over and over, a chorus of distorted voices echoing in the dark. "Daniel, Daniel, Daniel." In a blind panic, I grabbed the nearest heavy object to bookend from my shelf and I smashed the radio. I brought it down again and again until the plastic case cracked open, and inside, where the tubes and wires should have been, there was something else. Something wrapped in a piece of wet, yellowed newspaper. With trembling hands, I peeled back the damp paper. It was a photograph, a Polaroid. It was a picture of me, sleeping in my own bed, taken from the foot of my bed just last night. A low rumble started, and the static from the broken radio slowly faded, replaced by the faint sound of breathing. Slow, steady breathing, right next to my ear. Now, the voice doesn't come from the radio anymore. It comes from the walls, from the air vents. It comes from the darkest corners of my room when the lights are off. Every night, I hear it whisper, "Can you hear me now?" Some frequencies should never be found. There are more stories waiting for you in the dark. Subscribe before it's too late. I work as a night security guard at a downtown office building. 11 floors, one person on duty. That's me. Most nights are quiet. Just the low hum of electronics and the flicker of old, grainy, black and white security cameras. Too quiet. But last Monday, something felt off. I noticed something strange. There he was, a man, standing completely still in the hallway on camera 7. Tall, motionless, just staring directly at the lens. I felt a chill run down my spine. I radioed my coworker upstairs, but all I got back was static. When I checked the feed again, the hallway was empty. My heart was pounding, but I tried to reason with myself. A glitch. A trick of the light. I switched to camera 9, hoping to calm my nerves, and my blood froze. He was there again, but closer this time. His head was tilted at an unnatural angle, his eyes still locked on the camera, still staring. "It's just a glitch," I whispered, my voice trembling. But then I noticed something else. The lights in that hallway on the screen were flickering, and they were flickering in the exact same rhythm as the buzzing fluorescent light right above my head in the control room. A slow, unnerving pulse. That's when I saw it, on the wall behind the man in the video feed. I could just make out a reflection. My reflection, staring back at me, but I wasn't on that floor. I hadn't moved from my chair. I was still in the control room. The sudden, jarring ring of the telephone nearly made me jump out of my skin. My hand shook as I picked it up. A voice on the other end spoke. A voice that was eerily familiar. It was my own voice. It asked, "Why did you leave the room?" I slammed the phone down and spun around in my chair. The door to my control booth, which I had locked hours ago, was now wide open, creaking gently in the silence. My gaze snapped back to the monitors. The man was no longer in the hallway. He was now inside my security room, right there on the camera feed for this very room. He was sitting in my chair, at my desk, wearing my uniform, and he was smiling. I lunged for the main power switch, desperate to shut it all down. But even after I flicked it, the screens stayed on, glowing ominously in the dark. Every single feed, from every single camera on all 11 floors, now showed the same image. The man, standing right behind my chair, his head resting on my shoulder. I whipped around. Nothing. The room was empty. Just me and the silent, smiling man on the screens. And then, the power cut out completely. Utter blackness. Complete silence. I held my breath, listening for any sound. When the backup generator finally kicked in a few seconds later, the monitors flickered back to life. I wasn't in my chair anymore. I was on the screen, sitting where he had been, watching myself panic in the control room. Now, every night, he moves a little closer. In every reflection I catch in a darkened window. In every camera feed I check. Sometimes, when I blink, just for a second, I can feel his cold breath on the back of my neck. The real horror is not knowing which version of me is still alive. They say your reflection never lies. It's supposed to be an exact copy, a perfect mirror of who you are. But mine started talking back. It began about 2 weeks ago. I'd stumble into the bathroom each morning, half asleep, and find the mirror slightly fogged over, even though I hadn't showered yet. It was strange, but I brushed it off. Then, the writing started. The first morning, a single word was traced in the condensation. Watch. I wiped it away, my heart doing a little nervous flutter. The next day, another word appeared. Listen. I started to get genuinely freaked out. My first thought was a prank. My roommate, maybe. But the thing is, I live alone. I checked all the locks, the windows, everything. There was no way anyone could have gotten in. I tried to convince myself I was just tired, stressed from work, my mind playing tricks on me. But the feeling of being watched never went away. And then, the reflection itself began to change. It started subtly. I'd be brushing my hair, and my reflection would be just a fraction of a second behind my own movements. A slight, unnerving lag. It was like watching a video with bad sync, but it was my own face. My rational mind screamed that it was impossible, just a trick of the light. My gut, however, was screaming at me to run. One night, I couldn't take the suspense anymore. I decided to confront it. Whatever it was, I walked into the bathroom, the air cold and heavy. I leaned in close to the mirror, my breath fogging the glass, my eyes locked on my own, and then it smiled. But I didn't. My face was a mask of fear. But the man in the mirror had a grin that stretched from ear to ear, wide and unnatural, filled with too many teeth. His eyes were wide, unblinking, and utterly devoid of life. As my hand trembled, reaching out to touch the cold surface, his voice slithered out from the other side, a dry, rasping whisper that chilled me to the bone. The next thing I remember is a sharp, cracking sound and a spider web of fractures spreading across the glass. I woke up on the cold tile of the bathroom floor, dazed, with tiny shards of mirror scattered around me like deadly confetti. The overhead light was flickering erratically, casting long, dancing shadows across the room. My head throbbed. I pushed myself up, my hands stinging from small cuts, and I looked up, and my blood ran cold. The reflection was still there, standing in the fractured frame, perfectly whole, perfectly still, just watching me. That's when the horrifying truth finally hit me. It wasn't my reflection anymore. It was something else. Now, every reflective surface in my apartment is a prison. Every mirror, every darkened window, even the polished chrome of the toaster. She's there, the other me, waiting. Sometimes, I catch her moving out of the corner of my eye when I'm standing perfectly still. Sometimes, she's closer to the glass than she should be, her face pressed right up against it, her dead eyes staring into my soul. And the worst part, sometimes, when I turn off all the lights and the room is plunged into darkness, I can still hear her, whispering that one terrible word over and over again. Last night, I finally understood what she meant. I woke up, not in my bed, but on the cold, hard surface of the bathroom floor. Except, this time, I was on the wrong side of the glass. She's out there now, wearing my face, sleeping in my bed, living my life, and I'm in here, trapped, staring back at her through the mirror, my own personal cage. So be careful the next time you look in the mirror. You never know who might be looking back.